This morning I'm going to show you kind of what we have going on here, how we collect our honey and what we use to collect our honey supers, so we don't have honey all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple pallets that we have built. And these pallets were brought to me by a friend of mine who's a beekeeper as well. He's been doing beekeeping for over 25 years, and he introduced me to these pallets. He let me borrow a few of them just to collect the honey. I loved them, and then I replicated that, and it's the best thing ever because it contains the honey in there without making a big mess in the truck when we go pick them up. So this is one of the pallets that my friend Steve introduced me to, and this is how we go ahead and collect the honey. So the difference between this pallet is it's made to fit 4 boxes, supers on here. We use these U-clips to hold them kind of tight together, but we have 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box. And the only thing that we do with this is we make it so that it's nice and tight so that the bees don't get in there. And then we also put this little piece of wood along the side, so the drip board. And so any honey that starts to drip, it'll fall in here. We've added this little border of wood. We've put some silicone so it doesn't drip out. And then that's how we collect our honey supers. So I'll show you here. So this is one of the supers that we use. And so essentially it would go just like that. Put another one in there. Put another one. And so there you go. So now you've just collected all 4 of them. And so then we'll just stack high, and we usually stack between 5 and 6 high. The reason why is because we use all deep boxes for supers, and the reason for that is because once we go ahead and use them for honey supers, the next year we'll probably use them for our brood boxes because we're still growing. So we want to go ahead and use these for future as brood boxes because there's already comb built into them, and then we get our colonies building a lot faster. So that's the way that we collect our honey on these pallets. And again, I want to thank Steve for introducing me to these. They're really good. Now that I've showed you how the pallets that we use to go collect the honey, now I'm going to show you kind of what we have set up here. This are the queen excluders that we use. We use all metal queen excluders, and I also got this idea from my friend Steve. We built those bracket holders that hold all those queen excluders in there, and that's the way we transport them so that they're not sliding on and off the truck. Then I took the same idea and just made them a little bit bigger, the holders here, and I made them big enough at that point to be able to hold our fume boards. So these are fume boards that we put on the honey supers to drive the bees down so that we could go ahead and collect them. And then, as you could tell, then we have our pallets there to go collect honey later today. So this is pretty much the way we have our truck set up. So it'll hold 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and then we go probably about 3 to 4 high depending on how much weight we have. And then we have our Hummer bee, which is what we use to lift the pallets on and off the truck. So that's pretty much our setup that we use to go out to the field and collect all our honey. This is one of our fields where we keep our bees. You can tell how many supers we have on there. Again, we're expanding, so we don't have a lot of supers that have comb already built into them. So some of them are single supers, some of them are double supers, and then some of them just didn't do good this season, and they only have 2 brood chambers. So we're getting ready to do our honey harvest, and we're gonna go ahead and start extracting possibly tomorrow. I'm on my way to a different field right now to go and start to collect some of those honey supers, and I'll show you how we do that. We are arriving at one of our fields where we have our bees. This particular field has mostly soybeans around. Towards the back there's a hay field that we get to take advantage for the flowering. So, but along the side here it's mostly all is our setup. And then you'll see right now, those are all our colonies that we have here waiting for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and suit up and get out there, show you how we do this. As you can see, we've already been to a field, and this is what we ended up getting from the one field. Once we end up getting the supers, we put a tarp over that just to kind of protect the honey from the bees while we're out at the other fields, so they're not robbing. This one, because it's uneven, we did not do that. Actually, these are empties that we put on here. That's why, if you could tell, these are the other pallets. These are regular bee pallets. They have the opening here for the bees to go in and out. So these are just dead outs that we've been collecting as well. So we put our dead outs in a different pallet. Here's our queen excluders. As we're taking the supers off, we go ahead and put the queen excluders on that board. Those are the honey pallets, like I explained to you earlier today. Those are the ones that have that lip so that the honey doesn't drip out. I refer to them as drip pallets or honey pallets. And then here's some of our beehives that we have. And we use fume boards to go ahead and push the bees down. When we initially put the fume boards on, what we do is we set them in as an angle like that, just so that the bees don't get shocked. And we'll go ahead and put all the tops sideways, just like this one, on all of them. And then once we go ahead and put them all sideways, they sit like that for a few minutes. Then we go ahead, come back, and put them the proper way. And then that'll drive the bees down. So what we'll do is we'll take the first super off, and then we'll put the fume board back on the next box down so that it drives them all down. Just because when you have multiple supers, the fumes don't get to the second brood chamber or the second super. That's been my experience. So then what we do is we'll just go ahead and put it on the second super, drive them down to the brood box, and then that's easier for us to take the super off. But this is one of the fields where we keep our supers. Again, this is the holder that we use for the queen excluders, and then that's our Hummer-Bee. It's a little on the dirty side just because we've just been working, trying to get everything done. And we'll just use the Hummer-Bee to stack all our supers on here. And that's how we put them on the truck. And then we transport them over to the honey house. And we use the honey house as both the extraction room, but also our hot room. We keep that room as hot as we can. I use a mini split for that. And the hottest that I could get that mini split to go up is about 88 degrees. So I wish I could get it to go a little bit higher, but you know, again, I work with what I have. So you could tell this one here, all the bees are being pushed down just because we have the fume boards out there. So if we take one of these fume boards off, pretty much all the bees were pushed down. There's nothing up here. So the key to using fume boards is to leave them on there for a few minutes to have the bees driven down. That's it. Now we're back at the honey house. These are all the supers that we collected from the fields today. As you can tell, most of the bees are gone from the supers. A couple stragglers that end up coming in with us. Most of the ones that are in the boxes end up coming and end up going to the door with the window. And then what we end up doing is we end up running these deeps for supers. The ones that we put on the colonies that have already drawn wax, what we end up doing is we run 9 frames. And the reason that we run 9 frames is if you look right in here, they build out the comb further out than the frame itself. So as we're getting going through with the knives and cutting in there, it's easier for them to cut. I don't have to cut as much comb, which then for the next year, it's a lot easier for them to build up on. The newer boxes, which you'll see, these are some of our newer boxes that we ended up doing. These are just regular wood color, and the reason for that was I bought unpainted boxes and then we dipped them in wax. At some other time, I'll show you our wax tank that we end up dipping in. But we end up dipping them. They turn out pretty nice when they're weathered like that. But the advantage of waxing is that the equipment will hopefully last quite a bit longer because all the pores in the wood are sealed and it gets rid of any moisture that's in that wood. But this is one of our newer boxes, and then these boxes, you could tell it has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 frames. So we have 10 frames in those in those newer boxes because when we put them out, it's all foundation. And when it's all foundation, they have a lot of work for them to build out. When we're done extracting them, what we'll do is instead of putting 10 frames back in that box, we'll end up putting 9 frames back in that box so that they're ready to go for next year.